Update. Would I be the a-hole for asking a paternity test because I don't remember getting her pregnant? Original post. This is more of a request for advice than an am I the a-hole post, but here it is. I, male 35, have been with my wife, female 33, for the last 10 years, and we got married 3 years ago. For the past 6 months, our intimate life has been non-existent, mainly because I travel for work a couple of times a month. When I'm home, I work long hours. I try my best to help with housework and spend time with my wife, but I pass out the second I lie down. My energy level is depleted. My wife quit her job when we got married, so I can't just take a break from work. It was her choice. I had no say in it. Today she told me that she's pregnant. I was shocked because the last time we had sex was many months ago. So I joked, "You got pregnant from cuddling? That's the closest we've had to intimacy." She kept insisting, "Don't you remember?" I told her I honestly didn't. She said, "Well, we started making out, then you kind of passed out. So I just wrote you." "Oh well," and she giggled. I asked her, "While I was passed out?" She said, "No, you were kind of awake. You had a big smile afterward. What's the big deal here?" I told her that I would at least remember some of it. Come on. She got mad and asked if I was accusing her of something. I said no, but I'm just very confused. Am I the a-hole for thinking my wife might have cheated on me? I've been home on occasion, so my traveling hasn't been constant. Do I need her permission to get a paternity test? If she hasn't cheated, why don't I feel happy and joyful? I feel like an a-hole. Now for the top comments before reading the update. So either you cheated or you violated me. Not a-hole. Get the paternity test. And I'm sorry for what's happening to you. Get a paternity test and get tested for STDs as well. In case anyone doesn't know, you can Google STD testing and find local resources for free or low-cost STD testing without having to get a doctor's orders. The testing then comes to you in a confidential way and isn't listed in any of your other health records. It's the best way to make sure everything is okay. I've used STD Check in the past, but your local health department may also offer free or lower cost testing, and Quest Labs appears to have tests you can direct order as a consumer, meaning no order required. So many red flags here. My wife quit her job. I had no say in it. This should be a common decision. You are in a relationship. One partner can't just choose to stop working without the other partner being part of that decision. You kind of passed out, so I just wrote you. Oh well, you were kind of awake. I'm sorry, what am I reading? This is a crime OP. If this really happened, your wife violated you. I can't believe I'm about to say that, but best case scenario, she's a liar and she didn't violate you, and is trying to make you think you are the bio father of that child. I really hope this is what she's doing. Do I need her permission to get a paternity test? For now, you need her permission, yes, because the baby is not born, so you don't have access to it to make a paternity test. I don't know a whole lot about laws, but maybe a judge can force her to have one? If she hasn't cheated, why don't I feel happy and joyful? I think this is the best question you could ask yourself right now. That baby, if it's yours, was made during SA. That baby, if it's not yours, was created with another man. The fact she might have violated you or is lying to you about forcing herself on you is, in my opinion, quite enough to not be thrilled about that child. Also, if you were already unhappy in your marriage and exhausted because you can't take a break from work because she made a one-sided decision to not work, that could also contribute to you not feeling joyful. I'd say you don't have to dig deep to see why this marriage is toxic, Hopi. Not a-hole. Now for the update. I got a lot of DMs asking for an update. I'll be seeing a lawyer this week and then I can share more. I checked her phone. I'm not proud of it. And yes, she and my brother bonded over feeling like lonely spouses who were neglected by their partners. While I was away from my work trips, he would tell his wife he was working night shifts and would have sleepovers at our place. They both acknowledged how the arrangements felt both right and wrong, as neither of them wanted to leave their spouses, but still enjoyed the physical and emotional aspects of their affair. When I confronted her, she got angry about me going through her phone and said she felt violated. Honestly, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She insisted the baby is probably mine because we've been having quickies. According to her, it happened more than once, when I was half asleep, and she said, "I only wanted your baby." I told her I don't believe a single word she says. I told her she needs to move out and we'll figure out what to do after a paternity test. I also told her I'm canceling all her extracurricular activities because they're not my responsibility anymore. She said I'm financially abusing her, but to be honest, I really didn't care. I also told her I'm coming to her next baby appointment because I need to talk to our family doctor. She's currently staying at her best friend's place. Today, she messaged me saying she's spotting and blaming me for it, claiming I've stressed her out and increased her chances of miscarriage. She said I'm a crappy father and an abusive spouse. Honestly, I'm not even sure if she's ever been pregnant. I asked if she needed a ride to the hospital or her friend's address so I could take her. She didn't answer. So here I am. I blocked my brother from everywhere. I don't have a brother anymore. Tell your brother's wife everything. I already have. I sent her the screenshots of their messages, then blocked both her and my brother. I don't care anymore about him. I think you should unblock your sister-in-law. Maybe she can provide you with more information necessary for your divorce, because the most likely thing is that your soon-to-be ex will start a smear campaign against you and present herself as an abused wife and you as an abusive husband and controller. She already started a smear campaign. Oh my goodness. Is she for real? I'm fascinated by cheaters who get all offended when they're caught and talk about having their privacy violated and try to play the victim in a situation they created for themselves. Then she has the audacity to accuse you of being a bad or abusive father/partner? She's so far up her own behind she's throwing out judgments she's in no position to make. I'm glad she's out of your house, and while I'm sure this hurts you, at least you're clear on who she is and the nasty levels she's prepared to sink to. Good luck and good riddance to her. I just can't believe she thought Opie was this stupid. Did she really believe that she can gaslight him into believing that he was having this imaginary sex life with her? She didn't even bother to sleep with him for real once to make it believable. She thought she'd be in the clear. With the likely father of her baby being Opie's brother, there's a good chance it would share features with him and look enough like it was Opie's. But yeah, what was her endgame? That Opie would be able to work less and spend more time with her with a baby on the way? She does realize they're expensive and use up a lot of your time and effort, right? How long was she going to keep banging his brother? Forever? What an idiot. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my brother's wedding after he invited my ex? So here's the situation. My 28 male younger brother, 25 male, is getting married soon, and I was excited for him until I found out he decided to invite my ex-girlfriend, 27 female, to the wedding. Now, let me give you some background. We broke up over a year ago, and it was pretty rough. She cheated on me with his best friend, and it took me months to get over that betrayal. When I found out she was invited, I was furious and reached out to my brother to express my feelings. I told him that I would not attend if she was there. Instead of being understanding, he got defensive and accused me of ruining his big day. He insisted that he wanted her there because they've become friends since the breakup and that she's changed. I told him that if I'm not welcome, then I won't be attending, and therefore I won't be covering my share of the wedding expenses, which I had already agreed to pay before the invitation fiasco. Now, my family's pulling me in every direction, saying I'm being petty and ruining my brother's wedding for no reason. They're calling me an a-hole for not supporting my brother and for potentially putting a financial strain on his wedding plans. Some even suggested I should just suck it up and attend for the sake of family. I've now decided that I'm not paying for a single thing, and that if he wants to have a wedding with my ex as a guest of honor, it's on him to cover the costs. Am I the a-hole for standing my ground and refusing to fund my brother's wedding under these circumstances? Edit. Just to clarify, I'm not upset about the wedding itself, but about the fact that he invited someone who hurt me deeply. I feel like my feelings don't matter to him, and frankly, I'm tired of being the one expected to just roll over. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. But what is the deal with all these people paying for siblings' weddings? When did that become a thing? Honestly, I don't know why my brother and his family expected me to pay for the wedding. Paying for your sibling's wedding sounds like something invented on reality TV by a plastic couple. If he's still best friends with the guy your fiancé cheated on you with, that says a lot. And the nerve to invite her to his wedding, let alone remain friends, is unbelievable. If they're more important to him than his brother, who was betrayed, then they should help cover the wedding costs. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. This woman betrayed and hurt you, and now your brother is friends with her and she's changed? Don't pay. Don't go. Hold strong and give your brother an "I told you so" when she cheats on his best friend. Your brother is showing you how important you are to him. Believe him. Thank you for your input. This "I told you so" will be the most satisfying one so far in my life. What your brother is doing is outrageous. I may be a little biased as I was cheated on by my ex-fiancé February last year. When my siblings found out, my 3 sisters dropped her as a friend and said they will not physically hurt her but to never contact them again. My brother was my rock and would never have made me be in the same room as her. Your brother is not a very good brother. Did your brother also get a turn with her? Yes, unfortunately. So why was your money involved in his wedding to begin with? My brother is currently unemployed. Why is an unemployed guy with no money getting married? My relatives would have schooled me if I was unemployed and going around asking people to pay for my wedding. Why he is getting married in his current situation is beyond my understanding at this point. Last story. Am I the a-hole for cutting my biological children out of my will and instead giving it to my stepson? I, 60 male, know that title probably caught a lot of you, but it really isn't what it seems. This entire situation has been agonizing for me, both physically and mentally. I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll try and be as succinct as possible, so as to not bore anyone with the details. So I've been married for 2 years to my wife Jen, 58 female, with whom I am raising her son, 16 male with. Man, words can't describe how much I love that kid. I treat him fully as my own. He's such a nice boy, and I'm proud to say he gets on with me very well. I also have 2 children from a previous marriage, 30 male and 27 female, from my now ex-wife, 60 female. Long story short, I've cut my bio son, 30 male, and daughter, 27 female, out of my will. They are to inherit nothing. I run a rather successful business and own a few houses which are worth a lot. I'd always intended to pass that on to them, the business to my son and the houses split between my son and daughter. I know it's a bit morbid because there's nothing really wrong with me health-wise, but I've always been open with that to them. To be honest, they both had a spoiled upbringing, so they had a head start in life, which is the complete opposite of how I grew up. Now, if we wind the clock back some 5 or so years ago, I was married to my now ex-wife. We had been married for 35 years. We did have our ups and downs like any other marriage, but there was never any infidelity or anything. Well, long story short, I ended up coming home to find her in bed with another man. Of all the ways to find out your spouse is cheating on you, that was the one I did not expect. Not because of how disrespectful it was, because at that point respect is out the window, but because of how stupid it was. I did a lot of late work at my office during that time, but truly they weren't that stupid. At that moment, I was seething in rage and had to restrain myself from beating the crap out of that guy. I ended up divorcing her and keeping my distance from her. I needed a lot of therapy and support to get through that. My relationship with my bio kids was still great and they understood what I was going through, or so I thought. It was only recently that when I went for a drink with my daughter that she was all of a sudden quiet and not like her usual self. I asked her what was wrong and she said she was scared to tell me. I calmly reassured her that everything would be okay. She then proceeded to spill her guts and say that she and her brother knew about their mother's affair, but that their mother had begged them not to tell me when they knew. My son ended up agreeing with his mother and convinced my daughter that this would be best. So they knew their mother was having an affair, but were afraid to tell me. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I asked her wasn't she and her brother angry at what their mother had done, and she said she was, but that they couldn't cope with this and that it wasn't their place to get involved. Well, by not telling me, they had involved themselves. I later had to confront my son over this. He hit me with the "it was to protect you" shtick. At that point, I felt very empty and cold inside. He began apologizing too, but by that point, I think I had enough. I had come to terms with the fact that my bio kids are fully grown adults now, and that this is how they've chosen to be. I'm not going to fully go no contact with my own kids. I can't bring myself to do that. But I don't want much of a relationship with them either. I had to sit down with them both and informed them that I'd cut them out of my will, and that stepson would be inheriting much of what they were going to get. This led them to have outbursts, of which I myself didn't even experience when I caught their mother cheating. They accused me of being heartless and cruel, and how can I love my stepson more than them when he's not even really my kid? I told them both, he's more of my own than either of you, and left. My stepson is very bright, and I'm sure he could one day take over my business. He could pick any of the houses I own to raise his family with too, and do what he wants with the rest of the properties. My ex has been sending me messages calling me heartless too. I have to admit, I have thought whether I went too far on this. Am I the a-hole? This is a tough one. On the one hand, I understand how you feel. It has to feel like your children were complicit in the affair and helped their mother to break your trust. In reality, they did. I could see being absolutely livid on learning this new info. On the other hand, even though they were adults at a time, they were young adults. Young enough still that their mother likely still had a lot of pull on their decision. Your daughter especially seems to regret her decision not to tell you. It sounds like it has never sat well with her, and a little age and maturity have made her come to a different understanding. She could have taken this to her grave and you wouldn't be the wiser. Instead, she came to you to tell the truth, even though she knew there would be fallout. Not only from you, but from her mother and brother who convinced her to keep the secret. That she was willing to do the right thing even knowing it would cost her says a lot of her character, as well as her level of respect for you. I'm not defending her initial actions. There is no defense for that. But maybe she deserves a little grace for coming clean in the end when there was nothing to gain and everything to lose. Enough for, at least, a more in-depth conversation once the shock and anger have faded. What an ugly situation. When I was 19 years old, I found out my mother was having an affair. I told my stepdad about the affair. He confronted my mother. My mother lied and told him I was just trying to stir up trouble. I was thrown out of their house and ended up living in a homeless shelter for almost a month before one of my friends found out and her parents let me live with them for 6 months while I worked and saved up to move into an apartment. During the month I lived in a homeless shelter, my stepdad found out I was telling the truth when my mother took off with her affair partner. He never apologized to me. He never invited me to move home. He didn't care that the child he raised from the age of 5 was living in a homeless shelter for telling the truth. For a long time, I wished that I had just kept my mouth shut about the affair. As an adult, I have not spoken to my mother or stepfather in over 20 years. He took her back about 3 years later. As an adult, I know that I made a correct decision in telling my stepfather about the affair, no matter what it cost me. And believe me, living in a homeless shelter for almost a month haunts me to this day and affects every financial decision I make. Having said that, I do believe that your children should have told you about the affair. I also understand why they didn't. I do believe that your daughter deserves some grace though, because she did tell you the truth when it would have been easier to keep her mouth shut. I also understand OP's feelings of utter betrayal. I guess in summary, I would just say that I think therapy will help you work through your feelings of betrayal and hopefully can put you on a path where you can gain some perspective into the situation. One final note, your cheating ex-wife calling you heartless? She can go kick rocks barefoot. I genuinely hope you're doing well now. That's a tough hand to be dealt early in life. Life is much better. I am happily married and I have 2 beautiful, now adult, children. As a child of divorced parents, both of whom used me as a pawn in their games, I can tell you that it puts the kids, no matter what their age, in the middle of it, in a very uncomfortable way. I was only 11 when my dad told me to keep a secret from my mom, who of course found out. I was blamed for keeping the secret, even though I was the one who spilled the beans. So I actually did not keep the secret. Your daughter was asked to keep the secret. She felt it was wrong and came clean to you directly. That should count for something. Yeah, I was 12 when I caught my mom cheating. I don't think I ever told my dad. He found out anyway and they got divorced. Even if the kids were in their 20s, it's an awful position to be in because you have to choose between parents. My sister and I caught my mom cheating on my dad when we were in high school. We didn't say anything because it would devastate my dad. My mom would have beaten the crap out of us, and they would have had a very ugly divorce. I was about to go to college on a scholarship that I was going to have to work my butt off to keep. I definitely didn't need myself in the middle of a crazy divorce. Regardless, parents that dangle a will over their kid's head for any reason is doing it for the drama.